Morality.
Tonight, we take a look at Silo and see if it's still holding our attention. Then we'll talk about Citadel on Amazon Prime, and conclude with 2 real powerhouse episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. All this coming up right now on The Writer Brothers. And welcome back to your Tuesday night home for Silo, Citadel, and still Star Trek. I am your host, Petey York, joined, as always, by the ever-so-lovely Mr. Pollo Zapatos. Sandwiched in between us, of course, the ever-so-lovely Mr. Corio and Witch-in-Residence. The ever-so-lovely Mr. Scogli Jotun here with us again. And, of course, the ever-so-lovely Miss H. Marie. Gentlemen, lady, how is everyone tonight? I mean, I'm ready for some kick-ass discussion. I don't know about the rest of you.
Hey man, I just saw Silo today. I'm ready to go.
Dude, I'm pretty excited. I am really enjoying Citadel. I watched it twice because I thought I missed everything. Not just good. And then I missed Silo this week. I tried to get to it today. Got a little distracted on the prep. But then Deep Space Nine was pretty great. Like,
yeah, DS9 was strong this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to see the strong pimp hand Cisco.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun. So I'm pretty stoked.
Good, because I don't want to oversell it, John, but this is like, I was wrong, okay? I was wrong. Season 1...
I said that at the beginning, though.
Season 1... What?
I said that from the jump, though.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, Season 1, is Season 1. It's just kind of finding its footing. It's got a lot of good episodes. It's got Run Along Home. Season 2... is where we're really, getting there. We're finding our stride, get held back a couple steps with invasive procedures, but then we start to come back a little bit stronger and stronger. We hit Maquis Part 1. We're pretty much at freaking Star Trek, is cranked up to 11 from here on out. I mean, I forgot everything, and I looked ahead on a couple of the episodes, and I'm just like, oh boy, this is this is good. This is what Star Trek Legacy is going to have to be at the start. And if it's not, it's just not going to work. And yeah, the more Terry talks, the less enthused I get on Star Trek. But we're not talking about Picard right now. We are talking about whatever Corione is bringing us in pop culture news tonight. Corione, what you got?
So something kind of interesting happened early in this week here. We got a news from the Euro Competition Bureau. They are not going to block the Microsoft Activision merger. It's going to go through. Now, traditionally what happens is, because it goes through the European Union first, when these sort of anti-competition things come along, what inevitably winds up happening is the rest of the countries kind of follow in whatever line the investigation the European circuit has done in terms of competition. So, for example, if the European board said, hey, absolutely not, this has turned into a monopoly, we'd all be screwed, they will, the US will follow suit. Everyone will kind of go along with that, and that'll be the end of it. But if they okay it, everybody tends to go along with that as well. So the American Trade Commission has already kind of hinted that they're going to be fine with it now. So it looks like the hardest no-liner has caved. We're going to get one gaming corporation to rule them all. If you wanted, some Fable in your World of Warcraft, I guess you're going to be getting it. Or World of Warcraft coming to Xbox, I guess you're going to get it. So, given the trouble that Activision and Blizzard have had over the last, let's call it 10, 15 years, it's I'm not sure exactly what Microsoft is getting from this deal specifically, other than possibly, a Diablo Call of Duty mod, which would be kind of dope. But that's kind of where we're at now, is unfortunately, these are going to merge, and I don't think it's going to help for quality for AAA titles.
I'm sure, Corione, you being a big StarCraft nerd that you are, you've got to be excited at the possibility of having the Master Chief fight alongside your Space Marines and your Protoss armies. I mean,
not even a little. Not even a little.
Man, because that's the one you asked what good thing could come of it. I figured it out. StarCraft and Halo, which Halo's really just kind of a ripoff of StarCraft and Alien, but that's beside the point.
Right.
There it is. The only problem, though, and we discussed this offline before, is I know somebody who may have beta tested Halo Infinite, and if World of Warcraft or any of those properties is going to get the Halo Infinite treatment, oh boy. I hope you like your 20% release games and them slowly getting to 100% over the next year or 5, because that's...
I think there's a couple of things to that. Like, number one is, like, how much of this, like, merger acquisition stuff is actually, like, the gaming industry's version of the bank bailout. Like, a lot of these games and companies have been artificially inflated, and they've been flopping hard. So, like,
that's an interesting correlation. That's an interesting analogy.
It's not so much that like, and that's probably why it got approved. Is like the EU saw the books and was like, "Oh no, this isn't a monopoly. This is a saving grace. This is Chase Bank buying out, the dying SVB." Like, it's just another, like, market collapse, but they're trying to keep it hush-hush so as to not, like, lose investors, which also I think is pretty sad because, like, Activision and Blizzard, like, if you're dying, remember, you're the ones that, like, tout that this is a dog-eat-dog world. So, like, let go. Let's let the other studios like get the investors. Let's stop having investors wasting money on bad products, like you said, Parker. Like, not only like what happened with Halo, but like Activision and Blizzard, they're not exactly releasing the best of the best. Like this year alone, we've got Nintendo coming back with Zelda. We've got Elden Ring, which just blew everybody's brains. Like, those aren't Activision or Blizzard. Like, Call of Duty again, even after you said it wasn't coming this year, it is now, because like we're almost like, what is going on with all this? Like,
I am looking forward to Halo finally getting a proper battle royale. No, I've never actually cared about whether or not Halo had a battle royale.
I think a lot of that stuff, Parker, I think you're spot on the money, because like, what if all of our favorite, like, especially like as far as like Bethesda was concerned, Fallout 4 has never been more fun.
Oh,
like,
they're gonna
100 mods. Like, what if that kind of treatment is what we actually get?
Oh, they're gonna sell. They're gonna sell like cosmetic kits. So like, if you're playing your Spartan that you want to play in Call of Duty, you pay like $30 and you get a proper corresponding kit to make your character look like that in Call of Duty instead.
And that, honestly, no shame. That is a fair trade, because artists have to draw both, and coders have to
but that's we all know that's not who's actually getting most of the money, though.
Well, I know.
Okay. But here's the thing.
That's fair in terms of like, that is a product being sold, not like a loot crate. That's like a literal, like, you can bring this skin to your other games. That's fun. It may be digital entirely, but it is still dope.
And I think, look, when it comes to skins that have no in-game, benefit at all, I think we can all agree that, hey, fine, you want to pay $5 to give your character a unique helmet or whatever, fine.
The Fortnite thing works.
The problem is when it's not, a helmet for $5. It's the ability to throw grenades for $5.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mechanics cannot be sold. That's wrong.
Right, but that's the danger, right? Because Activision does that all the damn time. And if they're coming into the Microsoft house, I don't want Halo, like, I don't want the rocket launcher in Halo. Like, I don't want the spanker behind a
that is a point to Microsoft, because so far, like, they've helped EA shut that down and survive the shutdown.
I will.
Ammo packs.
Yeah, like I hate that. Like, do not sell me mechanics, but like, you can sell me art. I'll buy digital art. I love video games. I would love to buy your art into my video games.
Credit where due with Microsoft. They have not, and that's what I've actually had to tell people. They're like, I don't want to pay $30 for ears, blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay. First of all, what are you complaining about specifically? You're complaining about a cosmetic. You're not complaining. They don't. To Infinite's credit, they have never sold mechanics. They have never sold an advantage. It's all cosmetics, and so it's like, okay, I get that you're complaining that you have to pay. I know. They're in the business of video games. Are in the business of making money. I know. Let's take it, but.
Well, they are kind of overcharging, but that's because, like,
yes, but that's really
I think this is where it actually creates more supply, because like, if the Call of Duty writers are also freelancing for the 343 design artists, like, now we've got a lot more cross-cultural like contamination, which will lead to way more education, which will lead to way more diversity just in gaming experience, which would be dope. And I support that 100%. So like, you can do it right, Microsoft, and you can do it right, Activision Blizzard. Like, but do it right. Take the licks, take the L's, put those on your whiteboard, and look at what failed, and then look at what's winning. Like, the cosmetics are winning, and they're actually pretty fun.
And I will also say this: Microsoft does have a reputation for zero tolerance of the kind of shenanigans that has gotten Blizzard in trouble with things like the Cosby Suite. They are very good about making sure that stuff does not happen on their watch. So if anything, that could be a benefit of this merger.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's why I say, like, how much of this isn't a bailout? Because that, like, those lawsuits, those things, those cost Activision and Blizzard a ton of money. So, like, did it cost them everything? Have they actually been really low in the numbers and now, like, they're being bought out to be saved? Because, like, if that's the case, it kind of really changes the monopoly dynamic. But also, like, Microsoft, once you buy them, you know, maybe show some books, show some numbers so that we can, like, actually, like, have investors put their money in the studios that are winning. Like, I feel like there are so many studios out there, and it's a lot easier. It's easier than ever for people to get into, like, prototyping games or, like, developing stuff in Blender. And when I say easy, I mean in terms of access, not in terms of knowledge. Definitely, like, study. It takes a ton of studying. But, like, it's never been easier to actually study as well. Because, like, as somebody who's studying game design in their free time, like, YouTube, the internet as a whole, just an amazing resource. So,
Heck,
like,
there's a video game design humble bundle for books up right now.
there you go. Like, never been easier to access if you can afford it. And that's obviously definitely the rule, which is, like, could explain why these companies haven't been paying everybody as much as they could be, because they spent all their money on lawsuits or they spent all their money on like merch and swag, but then they like man, if Hasbro really hadn't taken themselves to the dump when it comes to, like, what they were doing with toys, because, like, what LucasArts did with toys in the 90s was insane. The amount of diverse toys you could play with. Like, imagine if that's what we had right now with Call of Duty in terms of Legos and stuff like that, or Halo in terms of Legos stuff. Instead, we got, like, none of that. So the marketing is to, like, what? Like, hats that nobody wants to wear? Shirts that nobody wants to, like, openly wear in public? Like, you all admit?
Yeah, most gamers I know still like to play with Legos or build models or, you know, have
Decorate
physical.
their desks.
Yeah, a lot of the STO streamers have a lot of the models as well. I mean, shit, I got one myself. It's there's a yeah. I mean,
it's a lucrative industry that literally only died because of corporate
it didn't die at all, actually. You're totally onto something, John, because I go to the freaking store, I go to Walmart, and I can still find Star Wars Legos. So there's obviously a market for physical merchandise that's not shirts and hats.
And people are still having kids. Help them
Gen
out,
X
like,
and millennials are
playing Call of Duty Legos while Dad plays Call of Duty, so you don't keep trying to take my controller. Thanks, Lego. Like, that's a thing.
Oh, that's right. Growing up, we did do that
every day.
We took turns on the console and
now. Again.
So yeah, that's the big stuff. I mean, there is a whole bunch of crazy Disney nonsense going on. But I feel like enough channels have done a deep dive into exactly what's going on with Disney's legal woes that I don't think we necessarily need to.
Yeah, no, and actually, I mean, I think our Star Trek discussion tonight is actually probably going to be pretty big. So we need to get started on Silo. So if you have Apple TV and you have not started Silo, what are you doing? And of course,
let's start with Citadel, because I'm halfway through Silo right now.
Oh, okay. We're gonna do a live on the air show change.
Show swap.
Let's just get the.
Don't mind me
posters.
just backing this elephant into the room.
Just the whole freaking show just stopped suddenly.
Just
all right.
walking this bull.
So we're gonna vamp for a few seconds here while PD
My
does
bad.
awesome background.
All right.
work
So
here.
now that everyone knows what we're talking about, we got Citadel up. All right. So. As I was saying with regard to Silo, if you have Amazon Prime and you have not started watching Citadel, you should start watching Citadel. If you are delayed release resistant, we'll get back to you. But I will just, not to oversell it, it's pretty good.
The agony of the wait is part of the joy, isn't it?
It's
in
each
this
their
one
own.
For once, like, every episode adds a little bit mystery, answers a little bit mystery. I'm, like, okay with it this time.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm actually pretty happy with the release schedule on Citadel because this is one of those where you want a little bit of time in between episodes to absorb what's going on. You need like a day to properly analyze this thing.
Well,
dude,
Three
I
Out of
was
the
saying-
Gates was cool. I think that's a good model.
Yeah, no, if
in the off show,
actually-
I had to watch it twice
yeah,
because I thought I forgot stuff, and it turns out no, it just had a lot of open ends in this episode.
Yeah.
yeah. You know, that's what I also, man, I really don't want to reference Picard season 3 too hard on this show, but that's one of the things I'm starting to realize, like, as we're watching Silo and Citadel, it's like, I obviously know good quality television. I just, yeah, it could have been so much better, damn it. Anyway, and Citadel and Silo are,
Finally you admit it!
he's already talking about retconning characters he killed off. Like, shut the hell up. Move on.
Aha!
Well, and you got to add the whole idea that like you've
Well-
got like it should have been better, but also like Monday morning quarterbacking.
Yep.
Like this was the best they tried with what they had, but now they have finally a leg to stand on if they do a season 4. But like these other shows that are like no name, like that's the sad part. Like Picard had all the name. You literally could have wrote any kind of basic story.
And it
with
would have
a
been
little bit of
fine.
plot twist,
It's-
and it would have been the bomb. But instead, like they tried to overcomplicate it, and then they were like, "Well, we got to add cameos," and then they were like, "Well, we're gonna balance them this time." And it's like, or just make the don't make them cameos, make them the cast
Yeah.
again, because that's
Well,
what this is.
All right, but
I'll have to
Citadel-
hold on. Well, I'm gonna finish this off by just I'll put it on video record. So if y'all want to tweet, whatever, I don't give a shit. Or I mean, I do, but I give a shit if you give a shit. That's it. This is what it comes down to for me. I got out of it what I got out of it. I enjoyed the ride. I think that even if I'm about to say that, you know, all the naysayers were correct, I just want to point out, well, okay, but you were also miserable the entire time, and how did that work out? Congratulations, you were right. We all lose.
Oh no, it was fun.
It
was. Like,
I
that's
still
one
will
thing
go
when
back
you
and
wanna
watch
go
it
back.
later, but I have to accept the fact that the naysayers were not wrong in their assessment, and that it wasn't entirely, well, I do think there was some blind hatred involved in disliking Picard
Really
season 3.
heavy-handed.
At the same time, I've continued to follow along some of the opinions of others, and I'm realizing that at the end of this show, regardless of if you you should have found something good in it. We all should have been able to say at the end of the day, at the end of the line, okay, you know what? I'm not a fan of fan service. I don't really like some of this stuff, but it was, you know what? There's people that liked it. There's stuff I liked about it, but people keep coming up with good reasons as to why it was bad. They also Terry keeps talking about retconning all the shit that made that freaking thing good. And as John just so aptly pointed out, we're watching quality shows that have had no established name whatsoever, and they are superior to the story we got.
Yep.
So, yes. I still rate it
Disappointed.
as good tier Star Trek in that it's mid-tier, like, you know, some of the
4 or 5.
more episodes of Next Gen. Enterprise Season 3, 4 good, roughly. Maybe kind of like, I can't really
Honestly,
compare it to DS9.
the best
Better
way-
than all the TNG movies still, personally, for me. So the
best
way I
way
see it, let me finish, please. The way I see it is, if you liked Nemesis, I did not, you got your proper Star Trek ending for TNG that I actually finally got in this one. And so I think that, at the end of the day, let's just say, regardless of personal feelings for New Trek, it does always give us an excuse to go back to good Trek, and that's what we do on this show. Is we also review good Trek. Go ahead, John, real quick, and then I think we do need to get back to
I was
Citadel.
just saying,
Oh, and then Skogley can have a word too. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it's kind of like Fast and Furious. Like, a lot of people liked everything through Tokyo Drift, but then after like 5, they were like, "All right, I'm done."
There's
And that's kind of what Picard season 3 was like. Like for me, Fast and Furious is probably one of my favorite evolving series of all time. Like, it's exactly what Back to the Future said Jaws was gonna be. Like Jaws 37. Like Fast and Furious is on 10, dude. Name another series that is 10 box office movies long.
Star Trek.
Like,
Star Trek has 13.
13 across several series.
It's not like the same core
literally
group, right?
all 10 are
No,
the same
they're all
thing.
linked to the same timeline.
Well, look, because like I'm not even including Hobbs and Shaw, which is also linked to the same timeline, which makes it 11. So it's like literally 2 under Star Trek. So even then, they're good. There's one other show that has 13 box office.
Well,
13
films.
movies.
Star Wars.
Wow, how many
9.
series is this Trek up
Well,
to now?
no.
8, 9?
9, more
If you
than
include
9.
everything, so yeah, it's we got Rogue One,
10.
and
Rogue One, Solo,
Solo 11.
the Ewok movies.
The Clone Wars movie, which is still the worst Star Wars movie. I always, like, don't get me wrong, Last Jedi and Rise of Suckwink are bad, but Clone Wars is just still...
Oh, yeah. No, look,
And that sucks
wasn't
because it's hard to
good.
get people into, you say, hey, go check out Clone Wars. They end up finding the movie instead of the show, and they're like, what did you just make me watch? And it's like, no, oh crap, I forgot about the movie again. Sorry. All right,
Visions of my,
Scully, you've been
visions of
patient. Please go ahead.
I've got visions of my cousin's dad when he realized he went to the video store, he rented Battle for Endor, one of the Ewoks movies, and we're about halfway through it, and all of a sudden his dad was just like, Jesus Christ, Miles, how many times do we have to watch this goddamn movie? He's like, I wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
His mom was like, whatever.
So anyway,
Hey, man,
back to
that
Citadel.
was my first date. I'm not even gonna argue that one, man.
Anyway, back to discussing what proper mystery box storytelling, what quality mystery box storytelling actually looks like. Let's get back into Citadel. John, why don't you go ahead and hit us with a actually, you know what? Let's getting ahead of myself. Non-spoiler overview. Still a solid ride. I can't wait for when does this one show? Is this one Wednesday or is that Silo? Or no, this one's Thursday, so Wednesday night.
This one's Thursday.
Yeah. So got something to look forward to on Wednesday nights again, which is nice. So I'm still with it. Still recommend. Corion, go.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm really enjoying the fact that this is releasing weekly because I feel like I need time in between episodes to absorb what happened in the previous episode because they pack an awful lot of plot and an awful lot of detail into each episode. This one's a really hard one to review without spoilers because there's so much going on. The only thing I'm really going to say, one, the visuals are still on point. They're still beautiful. They're still doing a lot of fun, cool stuff.
Sorry to interrupt your thought. Of course, we wouldn't do it for most anybody, but it is Nemesis of Eden. Hail to you. Thanks for stopping by, and good luck with your show, with your stream.
Yep. So, I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. I'm really enjoying the building relationship between the main character and all the adjacent characters because there's so much backstory here. And I mean, this episode really gave us a lot more backstory on what's going on that led to the current day scenario. And that was very much needed. And I think it also helped with character development, given how much we don't know about these characters' past. And, yes, we got a few more questions in this one, but we got an awful lot of answers. So,
John,
it was a solid season, solid episode 4.
Yeah, absolutely. John, go quick with your Citadel non-spoiler overview.
I'm glad we got the first 3 episodes real quick because, going into episode 4, I there are more questions to ask and more things to like find out, but at the same time, like the pace is really nice, like Corian said. Like there's so many questions to ask yourself over the week, and like for me, like that's what I was saying, like that's what I thought I forgot I hadn't like paid attention, because like I was like, man, I still have so many questions, like what was going on? And then I rewatched it and I was like, oh yeah, I was supposed to keep thinking that for a minute. and I like that, so like I'm enjoying it a lot.
All right, H. Marie, real quick with your non-spoiler overview of Citadel Episode 4.
Well, it's a little foggy for me, so I have to hear everybody else's recounts of the episode before I can give an actual accurate answer. But I've always been a huge fan. I've always been a huge fan of Priyanka Chopra. I've started watching some of her movies back when she first started acting, so it's been interesting watching her career grow. So, yeah.
All right, Scogli, real quick with your non-spoiler overview.
The show's interesting. I'm having a hard time putting my finger on what it is that kind of, there's some under thing that bothers me about it. There's something that seems, I don't know if like, I don't know, plastic, I don't know, but it's good though, and it's interesting. There's lots of intrigue, but for some reason it's just like the way all the like, it's really I don't know, it's like they've taken like a really common spy genre and just like smashed it on the floor, and it's like all these things that you're like very familiar with, like the references to stuff, it's like it's all kind of here, and it's like, I don't know, it's weird. But yeah, the mysteries are getting more compelling as it's opening up, and you're like, this person isn't who they think they are. And yeah, it's becoming more compelling, but there's just this, I don't know. It's like it sees itself as a sphere, and I'm like looking at a circle from the top or something. I'm not sure. Everything looks really polished, and the dialogue's great, and the special effects are great, and it's intriguing. But for some reason, there's still something about it that I can't quite put my finger on. It's weird.
Is it the aileron roll that they make the camera do in seemingly every episode? Because that's getting to me too, man.
I don't know. It just seems like it seems like I'm being like, it's like when my buddy listened to the first Slipknot album. He's like, the drumming's great, the guitar's great, the vocals are great, but somehow I feel like I'm being tricked.
You know, it's funny, Corio, that you complain about the camera roll, because that's actually one of the things I'm enjoying about the show is the artistic aspect of the shot. But
well, there is actually one piece that I do want to bring up, and it actually.
All right, hold on. We'll go ahead and set spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, it actually involves Silo as well as Citadel. I 100% respect every, like the work that these two shows are doing. And I think it's fantastic. But I am going to say this, guys. The surrealist opening that seems to have gotten super popular is really starting to feel played out. Can we get, like, I don't know, a different style of opening for the next show? Like, I'm not asking necessarily for a Star Trek plane whooshing by or whatever, but, or like a Full House opening where we just see everybody on the cast. But I'm getting a little tired of the surrealism on it. Like, it's getting skippable. And I don't like things that are skippable.
I disagree with Silo's opening. I think with Silo, it's totally appropriate because Silo at least has the soundtrack to more match it. I do think Citadel should have gone more the James Bond route with its opening graphics, so I can agree with that. And that's just all the more reason I'm enjoying DS9. Like,
right?
Like I don't skip the intro. Every time I rewatch, I watch that theme song. Even seasons 1 through 3, as slow as it is, I'm like, no, this is Star Trek. Part of watching Star Trek is watching the opening theme to get hyped for the show, and that's what's so different about DS9 is that it's all static because it's just shots of the station sitting there. What is so cool? Da 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 da. Oh, right, theme song. That's what makes it cool. It's amazing. But I agree. So yeah, I hope we could see. because I also like, because I felt Severance stood out on its own too. Like it had a very artistic styling to it that wasn't the, here's the, because when I started watching Silo, I was like, I like the opening, but why do I feel like I'm watching Peripheral again?
Right. This is my point. Like, it's become generic, and that's not a good solution.
Citadel it's generic, but it's not Peripherals. It's Mission Impossibles.
Right. I would rather Bond opening, though.
See the whole, like, the plot line of the episode is in the opening. Like the fuse burning in Mission Impossible.
Yeah, but
I love the openings. These ones are actually two of my like particular favorites. I did like Peripherals as well. Like I do agree with everything you guys are saying, but I do still rank these among the betters.
Fair enough, but I mean, look, just if we're gonna do a spy movie,
I can't stand that 6-minute intro.
Yeah, fair enough. But like, look, if we're gonna do a spy movie, bring back the Bond girls, okay? Make Bond girls great again, okay? Like that's what I want, okay?
I love the silhouette dancing. That's one of my favorite, like, especially the way the Bonds always did the trope. Like it was a different like texture going with it. Like in the Casino Royale, it was like poker versus like Spectre. It was like glass. Like that was a fun element. That's what you can do with the episodes.
And it was appropriately sexy, right? Like, I could show the intro and have Grandma sitting there and not feel awkward. Right?
Well, maybe your grandma.
All right, fair.
Actually, I was kind of sized out. It was Grandma LeMay. Yeah, she was the one that got excited when Bond came on, and I was like, I realized Grandma was actually cool. No, I'm just kidding. All my grandmas, they don't mind it. It's definitely better than Game of Thrones. I'll agree to that. It's always when Grandma comes in the room, and it's right when the boobies are on the screen every time. With Citadel, though, it's like I said, Citadel is very tasteful overall. I like this show. I like the pacing. I like the way they're doing again, it's proper mystery box storytelling. It really gets you hooked in. This was obviously a very filler backstory. Everything that, you thought was going on. Here's what's actually going on. And I'm sure there's even going to be twists within those twists. So I'm still liking it a lot. But go ahead, John.
Well, for my spoiler overview, I really like the way they're like painting the romance, because like it is casual. Like honestly, I'm getting way more like Archer vibes in terms of like the spy element, which I like, because that was always the like what's going on during their non-mission days of the week. And so like this has that actual, like, to me it has that like aesthetic where like the backstory isn't just cool mission after cool mission that was escalating in tension. Instead, like there's the actual filler in terms of their day-to-day and like getting to know each other and like asking questions of each other. A little bit like aggressive for like right after sex, but like have you ever been in love before? I feel like that's when you save like 3 or 4 dates and you ask that one at dinner in a public space, so it's not like a tell me you love me and only me type situation. But I mean, I think what like Scogler was pointing to, that like underlying tension, like I know I'm being lied to, but like I think that the tension is actually coming from the writing of the show, not from like, it's Amazon producing it. Like with Disney, it kind of feels like I'm being lied to by Disney. Whereas like with this show, it feels like the story itself is lying to me. Like I'm watching the wrong side of it. And I like that. That to me, like that's what Parker's saying, like mystery box, that to me is like that's what makes it okay to wait a week. Cause it's like, then dealing with like the memory issue, it's like, oh dang it, what did I forget? And then so that's where that rewatch comes back for me. It's like I actually enjoy rewatching these types of shows because there's so many little details to grab onto.
Yeah, for me, what this show is really feeling like is less like a mystery box and more like, you know, that present that people inevitably got you that one time where they wrapped it like 100 times and we're just peeling off layer upon layer upon layer, but we do get a good gift in the middle of it.
So it's basically like a
inside
Russian
of a
doll
box
mystery
of, like,
box.
baked beans or something.
Right, like, yeah, like it'll be a baked bean box, but then you'll reach in and it will be like the diamond necklace or something like that. Like it'll actually be something good in there, or like the Rolex watch or whatever. It'll be really dope.
I'm just intuitively just expect everything just to turn into a disappointing nothing burger.
Right, well, that's what we're so used to, but I feel like they're actually going to do that, do right here. Like, we're actually going to get, you know, after we've peeled off the layers, we're actually going to get something good in the middle. As opposed to, you know, like J.J. Abrams mystery boxes where it's like, you finally open the box and find there's nothing in the box, right?
Imagine
The box was the journey, the whole... Get out of here. Piss off. That's all I can say to that type of, you know, and that's
the box is the journey.
I really
that
don't
is
want
the
to
fun
talk
part.
about Cardigan,
the cake
but
still needs to be in there. Like you can't walk me on this long journey and then be like, now headcanon your way through the line. Like that was kind of like the hard part about Lord of the Rings, and I didn't know this like growing up, but now I see it as like my favorite thing about modern adaptations and like people trying to make stories better. And it's the fact that like nobody ever said what Aragorn's policies as a king were going to be. Like he was a person, not a man of the people. Like he was a mercenary in the most layman sense. So like how is he going to lead an empire? And that was never discussed or shown. And that's what like that's the mystery box. Is like we got the box, the wrapping of like Aragorn taking the throne and like needing to and fulfilling the prophecy and all of that. But what does he do with it? And that I feel like is another fun story to watch and write and read. And I think that's like exactly what you just said, Gordon. Like that's the part Abrams leaves out is he gets the adventure, but then doesn't realize that what comes next is equally important and also worth hearing about.
no, I mean, honestly, I think
to leave you with a sense of wonder.
I think Lost is the first example of a show of like DLC as a show. Like
right?
we're gonna see how many people stick around, and then we'll keep adding to the plot to keep the mystery going. But we honestly didn't think this was gonna take off past the first season, so that's why, you know, it just, you know, wasn't even gonna have a real ending. That was the whole point, was we were just gonna do the first season, and then that was that. But then it ended up being way more popular than it was originally planned. And so now we ended up with, oh, well, we got to keep the mystery going. And it's like, no, you didn't. You needed to have this planned out. That's why shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender hold up. Because
they wrote the end at the beginning.
Yep. Episode 1 to the very last episode is all planned out. And you can see, and that's why it's like, oh, yeah, I wish there was more. But I didn't think that I was cheapened. There was no ad hoc. There was no continuity disc changes. It was all perfect.
I want to see the evolution. I am 100% happy with the original catch, though. You know, like I do want to see what happens next in that Avatar universe. But like you could bring back none of the characters, and that's what Korra was to some extent, and it did do pretty good, and it was a pretty great story.
Oh, we've been enjoying Korra
as tight. But like, it was good, and that's what I feel like. Like I think that's funny because Avatar: The Last Airbender versus like Aragorn, you knew exactly how Aang was gonna run the world. You could watch 100 years after the Avatar's dead, and hear about his influence, and be like, "Yep, that's the Aang 12-year-old I remember at the end of the Avatar movie."
Anyway, any final words on Citadel? Citadel, see, this is what happens with good shows and good writing, is we want to talk about other good shows with good writing.
Yeah, compare and contrast. Because,
yeah. Like
So-
those of you who work on Citadel, if you happen to catch this review, I hope you're not taking this as an insult that we're bored with your show. Quite the contrary. Your show's quite inspiring.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my prediction is that this Oz key is actually going to be what Manticore used to take Citadel down. Like, it was never designed to take out, like, a country's ability to IT or anything like that. It was purely designed to hack past Citadel's encryptions to get the information. And it's also, incidentally, how I think the main character is going to wind up getting his memories back. Because I'm willing to bet they backed everything up somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sold that he's forever not. Yeah, I'm sorry. I've burned through so many hard drives to know that if you care about a piece of information, you will have backups to your backups to your backups to your backups.
Well,
Okay.
you know, as they say, Jesus saves, but Odin makes incremental backups. Just saying.
So yeah. All right. We still gotta, I think, like I said, we'll see how Star Trek's gonna be tonight, but I'm very confident it's gonna be awesome. But let's finally try and get to our Silo non-spoiler review. Again, if you haven't started this show, you should. And if you're not going to, I'll let you know what it is. Fantastic still. I'm hooked into this. I'm looking forward to Fridays. I'm actually going to start trying to do my initial reactions. But at the same time, I don't know. Maybe we should start watch parties in the Discord too. That might be fun. But go ahead, Corey. Or actually, why don't we go reverse order? Why don't we get Skogly? Why don't you tell us your quick non-spoiler overview?
All right. Yeah, no, this show's so interesting. Yeah, deeply compelling, very as like futuristic sci-fi or whatever. It's just like grounded in like familiar grimy technology and stuff. Seems very real and lived in. So slower episode, a little more character development, but holy smokes, that ending shot. Whoa. God damn. I like this show a lot.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
H. Marie, your quick non-spoiler overview?
Well, this is actually the first time I've actually been able to air my opinion about this show in general. So I am just going to wait and save mine for spoiler because I have things to say.
Didn't catch that last part.
I have things to say, so I'm going to wait from the spoiler part.
Ooh, things.
All right, things. Things. What non-spoiler things do you have, John?
Okay, this show's a lot of fun. Mostly because like I've seen similar tropes so far. Like NBC has done a few of these like post-apocalyptic style, survivor style. I've watched the Fallout analyses of the whole series, of each individual game, and like these stories are fun. But like this time, I really like that they're taking it really slowly. Like, yeah, we got like an exciting exit in the first 2 episodes, and we're like, oh, I do wonder what's going on with the world out there. But like this one's taking the time to like show how the machine has stayed alive the whole time, how they did 140 years in the silo. And so like this slower episode, as Skogly pointed out, like I'm currently watching it in the background, and like it's so fun because it's way more science than fiction in terms of like showing how these people are not necessarily indoctrinated, but more so like this really is their only choice and they've grown to adapt to it. And here's how. And I like that because like a lot of them are just like, yeah, so they built a spaceship and now they're in space and now they're not in space and it's failing, but nobody knows why because we didn't actually think about the spaceship itself.
Wow, dude, you definitely came to play today, John, because I need to get on that. I need to respond to that as soon as we get into spoiler territory. But that is an excellent point. I didn't even think to consider it that way. But Okay. I've got the play ready to go. But Corion, quickly with your non-spoiler overview so we can set spoiler alert and then H. Marie can air her grievances.
Yeah, so to me, look, I agree a lot with what Scogli said in that, the technology feels real and grimy, and I love that, right? This silo city, if you will, feels real, right? Like, you have stratification of society based on what level you live on. That is really damn cool that they bothered to put that into the series, right? We have characters that have actual motivations for what they're doing, and we get reasonable explanations for those motivations, right? We have characters that have legitimate phobias about things and are forced to confront them, and that's fantastic, right? We have other characters who are getting to near the end of their life and going, man, what am I even still doing in this job, right? Like, we literally have a cop that's getting too old for this nonsense, right? Like, he's a couple of weeks from retirement kind of thing. Like, we know something's going to happen to him, but it hasn't yet. And we're just waiting, right? Like, those are some fantastic pieces. We're seeing that the silo has specific jobs that you wouldn't see in regular society. But because of the way that the silo is laid out, those jobs exist, right? We see the political infighting between different groups. They pack an awful lot into each episode that, frankly, it takes me a little while to unpack and get all the little nuances, the little pieces, right? And that's fantastic. That's what I want to see more often, because that's a textbook example of solid writing, right? We're getting real writers here.
The really fun thing, just to add to your point, Corey, that idea that like a lot of what is normally like you have to create headcanon for, you can actually like go back and watch the episode after, like trying to share it in like this atmosphere. Be like, man, I feel like I may have added some headcanon. Then you go back and watch and you're like, wait, no, that was just non-verbalized. I just picked up on all of the cues that they made that work. Like one of the big ones is like there's no cars or like elevator. So like the fact that they have to walk the spiral is so daunting that like obviously communication is going to grind to a halt, which is crazy.
That career runner is just something else, eh? With his big pack going up the stairs.
Yeah, well, like there's a whole group of them, right? And the fact that like people will say things like, "Oh, I got to go down to the lower level. Hopefully, I can find a hotel space or whatever down there," right? Like, because I don't want to try to do going down the whole way and then going up the next day. Right?
All
All
right.
Day, right?
It's just notice. Let's get into spoilers. So just change the tag over.
Yeah, there we go.
No, see, this just speaks to the quality of the show. The fact that everybody here is just raving about all this good stuff that they can find, but not everyone is so totally won over just yet. Hopefully soon. But H. Marie, you had some thoughts regarding Silo, and why don't you share them, and we'll try to see if we can change your mind, or at least get you psyched up for episode 4.
Okay, so no idea what the show was when PD had said that we were going to watch it. So we watched the trailer and I was just like, okay, and we have another dystopian future here where these people are living in a confined space. They have to, rely on each other to survive. They have, all their mechanical issues that they deal with. Yeah, okay, sure. I get that. It's not hooking it for me. There's still some tropes in the story that are getting me. The writing is definitely good. It's too slow moving for me. I feel like it's taking way too long to get to the point. And I have a couple of theories I'm going to throw out here too, which you guys can comment on when I'm hopefully done with my rant. But so my first interesting theory that I came across because of this actual last episode was when the power went out, the window viewer actually flashed. I don't know if you guys caught that.
I caught it.
It flashed to the outside, and it was the exact same view that they had seen in the camera view. Now at the end, when the power came back on, the view screen flashed again. I can't tell if it's sunset or sunrise, but you can still see the tree, you can still see the hill, but what's interesting is the tree didn't have any leaves in that view. But when the power went out first, the tree had leaves. My other theory is when the sheriff went out, he either must have seen what his wife had seen, or it was a possible video reel because of what they had come across on the hard drive. And so he went and cleaned the viewer because he wanted everybody to see, but then when he took his helmet off, he either saw something completely different or it was really actually that thing. My theory is they're messing with their heads. The actual judicial is giving these people these helmets that are poisoning them as soon as they step outside, and after they clean the viewer, it doesn't kick in until after they clean that camera lens, if you've watched it. They always start to die after that viewer has been cleaned, and they can only make it so far. And what's interesting is, why did the sheriff make it directly to his wife without the helmet? But we didn't know if she was there with the helmet on.
So I actually have a theory on this. And that's what they're doing is they're putting in, like, they are definitely gassing these guys in that suit. But I don't think it's lethal gas. I think it's some sort of knockout gas. So it gives the illusion that these guys fell and makes it easier for the computer to track and put up the false image. And what I'm willing to bet what actually happens is there's probably a group outside of the, I'm going to call it a vault, because let's be honest, this is so inspired by Fallout. It's a vault, okay?
Resident Evil.
Right? So, once I'm willing to bet there's some sort of colony outside the vault, and when they come, somebody checks in every once in a while and goes, oh, hey, there's a new dude out here, and he's passed out. We'll bring him back to the village. We'll get him cleaned up, and we'll move forward kind of thing, right? That's what my theory is.
Okay, you actually just inspired another one. The show, like I said, it doesn't quite hook me, but there's still some aspects of that I'm like, okay, I want to see what's going on. But what if there's another silo?
Oh, I'm sure there is. I am sure there's... Okay, I am really hoping that there are different silos with different rules everywhere, and it's like elaborate lab experiments. I'm really hoping for that.
So, what I'm thinking is the tunnel that they had underneath where the water is, where she falls on the rope, right?
Yeah.
What if that's the water source for another silo, or that's the roof of another silo potentially, and the people who go outside are recruited for this other silo to keep the other one running in reality? Like, they're the actual engine underneath the silo that's running the steam.
Oh, there could be all kinds of things, right? There's
a little Stargate.
Yeah, who knows? There are so many places they could take this.
But anyway, I wanted to go for the whole so when we started this show, I felt similar to H. Marie. I was like, I kind of saw, I was like, okay, we got another dystopian conspiracy and whatnot, and it's like, okay. Listening to Corione and John and even Scogli chiming in with your guys' thoughts on it, I realized the element that had had me hooked the whole time, but I hadn't quite noticed it, and I'm hoping that maybe H. Marie will see it now. It's the world building. It's the, what is the conspiracy? What is the point? And already, H. Marie, you're starting to crack. Your feelings are starting to change because you're starting to have these thoughts of, well, what is actually going on, like, beyond the silo? What do we see? And yet, we also see a lot of what goes on in this particular silo, and it's at the point where I care. Go ahead.
Okay, with my ADHD, though, the problem is if I'm not hooked with a show within a couple of episodes, it's very hard for me to continue to watch it.
That's why I'm here for you, to drag you along.
Yeah, I know, I am along for the ride on this one, so I'll probably still be giving the dissenting opinion every now and again. I'll still comment what I like, but yeah, it's same story told a different way for me. That's
okay. I like when we fight over shows like this on the air, though, so when we go see the marriage counselor, we just go, all right, here's where we're at. Catch up.
Well, see, I don't think you're really offering so much of a dissenting opinion as a less enthused opinion, because, like, that's the nice thing about it. Like, nothing you said is actually, like, derogatory towards the show. Just like you said, it's not hooking you.
It's like these tropes again. This better be good.
yeah, you're way more like the actual like smart fish, and all like.
Damn it, Scogly! That's pretty much exactly. You just put into words what I couldn't seem to figure out. That is exactly how her attitude has felt. It's like this shit again. Better not suck.
This better be good. They better be able to pull it off this time.
But
Jesus.
But she is right, because that was my sense.
Yeah, I know. That's the best part.
Like that. Like I said, I have seen this trope before, so like to see it differently, and also to see it so detailed. Like you said, for world building. Like I've been following this writer, Hello Future Me. He's got a YouTube channel, and he talks all about world building. Things like Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of his like main discussion points, and he wrote 2 books on it. I'm sorry. But that's how good Citadel and Silo is, people. If you like Avatar: The Last Airbender, it looks like you're probably gonna like Silo and Citadel. Well, if you like it for the world building, like that's the big thing. Is like for me, I'm nerding.
The writing is still consistent too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, more in terms of like no magic. And no visual.
Hold on, no magic yet.
True.
Depending on one's interpretation, that generator is a piece of
been
magic.
having some like gnarly thermal see-through metal cars magic with lock-on bullets, but any technology sufficiently advanced is magic.
I think the water's fake.
True. So there's a little bit of magic, but more than anything, it's the world building. Like every conversation,
the world building is the magic.
Actually, exactly. Because like every conversation that they have isn't the common just, oh, I really like the protagonist. He's the protagonist of all protagonists. Like, no, it's like, yeah, so I had to walk up the hill today. And you're like, oh, that's kind of odd that he was talking about walking up a silo. Like, it's not like it's that big, right? And then you like keep hearing about it and you keep seeing it. It's like, oh wow, it took him 2 episodes.
10,000 people live here. Okay.
Yeah, and then suddenly you're like,
that just seemed kind of small though. Like to me, I thought the way they were trying to make it look like it was. When you said 10,000, I was like, that's. I thought we were looking in the 100,000 myself, but I guess not.
Well, when you consider that some of those levels have to be things like, farms.
In the engine room.
Yeah, all right. Good points.
Like, that engine room's huge.
I guess the way that some of those depiction shots, though, like, because they only show those farms that one time, and then this episode is the one, we haven't really seen that since the first episode. So I guess all the establishing shots have been screwing with my perspective because, all I remember is seeing the different office levels and living quarters. And so I started to think that plus the opening graphics, which kind of suggests there's lots of people. I was like, man, there's got to be like, 10,000.
And we haven't, I don't think we've mentioned yet that Tim Robbins is in this and he's great. It's nice to see him. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's a good, for the stair thing is the the way the silo of the round part looks, it reminds me of like a car garage in height. So like I've walked up a 3 or 4 car garage spiral as a kid, but like as an adult, no. So I can only imagine like having to do that like 50 levels or something like that, and just I would get a hotel at the top, especially because they're available. Like imagine when you go to park your car, you have to walk up that spiral, and they're like, oh, by the way, you can stay in a hotel. Like you might,
Yeah, no, but that was the stuff that really started to get me too. I was just like, well, this is a silo. Like it's a whole day to get down there. And even the doctor, he's like, I can't go anywhere on my day off. So
yeah, and even more is the kitchen room like therapy where they're like trying to talk out their feelings. Like it is very silo specific, but the feelings are still normal human. like you can really feel them while also like totally being like, yeah, I can just walk outside. I don't care.
Yeah. All right. Now to talk about I'd say I gotta make. How do I make this sound manly? Well, I'm just gonna say I appreciated the way they just kind of slid that old couple romance in. It's kind of nice to have shows remind us that, you know, old people love each other too. Go ahead.
Oh, that was hard, man. I was really starting to like the mayor. Like, really.
Hold on. It's not canon until they're declared dead on screen.
Okay, but at the same time, man, I was really starting to like
I was
the mayor.
too. I was like,
She looks pretty dead.
that was some pretty good misdirection in the way they kind of like hint that maybe she's in on all of this stuff and she's oh no, she has no idea what's going on either. And now probably won't.
Oh man. And like,
oh sorry, H. Marie had a thought.
Oh yeah, go.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's just more of that world building because she goes back and visits the gal that lives in her bunker that hasn't left for 20 some odd years. I can't tell if it was her sister or her best friend, but it's just interesting that the gal that was considered for sheriff was also just happens to be the mayor's possible best friend's surrogate daughter. It's just more world building, that's all.
Well, yeah, and I also think that makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, like, you're in a population of 10,000, right? You got to believe that in a population of 10,000, it's going to have a lot of small world moments, right? Where it's like, oh,
Well,
I know so-and-so.
How many people live in your small town?
Right?
I
I
honestly
grew
don't
up in a town
care.
of like 4,000 people.
Yeah,
So, we knew what everybody was up to.
6,000. I know like maybe a couple, and I'm like, just you stay on your half acre, and I'll stay on mine.
Right, but a situation like this where it's like, yeah, there's 10,000 people, but it's the same families that have been living together for what, like probably around 200 years. Like, not only is everybody know each other, a lot of people are going to be related to each other.
Wait a minute. Is this show
This is
just
underground Alabama.
Yeah, but I agree with that. But it's also, is this just an allegory for Earth?
Yeah.
Like we're told that space is deadly, right? There's no air. You're gonna die. That's what they say, right?
I want to go to space.
Now
Oh,
we
sure.
can, right? Yeah.
To space. Clean off
If
the camera.
I get terminal cancer, I want to go out into space, and I want to go on a spacewalk without a suit, because that's how I'm going out on my terms at that point.
PD, only if you agree to clean the satellites.
What?
Clean the camera on the International Space Station.
What
You
if-
got it, buddy.
Yep.
What if that's exactly what this is?
That's what the International
And
Space
the
Station camera is.
Well, no, and that's the reason why the helmets aren't working is because
Ah,
they're not
crap! The flat
safety.
earthers were onto something.
Well, you got to be careful then, man. If you fall off a flat Earth, you could wind up on flat Mars.
I know.
Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. I mean, let's think about it. In the silo, they see the people die, right? They've. Wait, is there video of people dying from decompression in space out there? I just realized I don't think I've ever actually seen an astronaut suffocate.
No, you won't have. Officially, the only people that have died in space have either died in re-entry or were on Russian spacecraft that we have only unofficial recordings of. So you've never actually seen somebody die.
So
of
we've never
explosive
seen
decompression.
someone die in the vacuum of space.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever
cold
heard
chain-
anybody like break down what they think that would look like.
The whole
even.
freezing thing is very theoretical, especially I think For All Mankind supposedly is like one of the most accurate because the way the husband and wife died on the moon, wrapped in duct tape, like the way the sun hit them without the Earth's ozone layer, it basically just cooked them like they were in a microwave.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, the physics supports the fact that space is either stupidly hot or stupidly cold, depending on where you are in relation to the sun.
I suppose the
Because
sun's
there's
rays
nothing-
coming around the planet would be like a laser. You'd be like ice cold, just
Right, and the reason being is because there's nothing stopping that heat or cold in the path to you, right?
But then why doesn't the space station just freeze or vaporize?
They have heaters on board.
Well,
Not
okay,
only
right.
that, but there's no air for like water condensation to freeze over. That's why you wouldn't actually turn blue like that.
Right.
You're more like you would just go stark white.
Okay, so if I shoot you in the face with a squirt gun, then shove you out the airlock, your face will freeze. Okay, that's what
Yeah,
you're saying.
okay.
Yeah.
Assuming that there's enough velocity for it to come out of the squirt gun and hit me, because it always normally pools.
Assuming space
Right
is
outside
actually
the-
deadly, and really all we just need to do is just get outside the.
Well, it's
the
deadly
trap.
because there's so much more to Earth than it just being ground we stand on. Like the gravity, the physical forces that exist, those are the things that like beat cells until they formed into bodies and humans that like made us exist. Like that's why there isn't just life outside of out of the universe as we know, because like it can't just easily happen. It takes the exact constant beating, like a rock and water being made soft and being made round. Like we're a billion rocks being beat for billions of years just to show up and look like this, and then for us to just walk off back into the nothingness. Like we weren't made for that. We were made for this by this.
Yeah. At any rate, but yeah, look, getting back into the silo here, like H. Marie pointed out something brilliant when they did the power down, and that is everyone got a glimpse of what was actually going on outside.
Maybe that could also just be
Well-
another video layer.
Well, to H. Marie's point, I actually rewatched the episode and went frame by frame to take a look. None of the bodies, including the sheriff's, were there
At the last shot.
at the last shot before it flipped off. Yeah.
Oh, before it flipped off. No, I meant when it flipped on at the end, because I didn't see any bodies in the last frame either.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't check that one. I could go back and do that, but I'm willing to bet it swapped back to the default, IT mode. I'm also willing to bet, guys, I'm calling it right now. Yes, Judicial knows what's up. I'm saying that head IT guy also knows what's up. And that's why he's trying to prevent the new sheriff from being the new sheriff. Not because she stole crap, because who cares? It's because he knows that she's going to be the kind of person that's going to find out the truth.
He also is the only one that actually approached the mayor.
Yep. Well, technically, Judicial approached her too, right? They tried to give her that strawberry tart. I'm also going to say right now, Judicial had the mayor killed.
No.
I know how.
Nope.
I
Oh.
know.
I was going to say, I think Mechanical's involved. I think the
Okay.
head guy at Mechanical, there's more to him than like, I could see him turning out to be working with Judicial or something in as part of the whole
Mess.
rat's maze.
Yeah.
Okay, so because I'm going into this with basically zero expectation, like zero, I have nothing for the show. I'm overanalyzing
The
it.
Picard
I
season
know.
3 expectation.
Oh Lord. Anyway, so it's interesting because the sheriff actually at the beginning of the episode took her bottle out and actually commented, "Oh, you already at half a bottle. You must have been quite thirsty today. Why was her bottle at half a bottle?" I think someone must have either poisoned her bottle or put a poison on the ring, because they take the bottles out of each other's backpacks. Oh, no,
Yeah.
wait. So maybe the poison was meant for the sheriff instead of the mayor? The other sheriff? The old guy? Because didn't he drink out of the lower water bottle? Or am I having a fit? I might be having a fit. Anyway,
I would have to
regardless, I
check
think
again.
it's the water bottle. I think it's the water bottle. I think that's where she got poisoned from, because that was the only thing we'd actually watched her consume all day, unless she touched something.
That's yeah, it's a pretty good theory. But yeah, I mean, I'm in. I'm ready to see how this show ends, or not, or how this goes. And I mean, it's.
How many episodes are we looking at?
I don't want to look.
Part of the mystery. Like, oh no, there's only 6.
Sorry,
Well,
I gotta
guys-
be careful about looking on the IMDb because okay, looks like there's 10. So
Well, but here's the thing. This is based on a 3-book trilogy.
oh, don't tip me with the good. Oh, you know, maybe that's what we could do after this season is we can go back and do the book, do a comparison, and then read the next. Then decide whether or not to read the next books.
Just saying, is all.
Has been a
I'm
minute
down.
since we've done a book on this show. I would like to get back to that because that's a lot of fun.
Yep.
And enlightening, and also helps me improve my abilities as a a writer. All right, I think it's time to head off to the final frontier because we've got a couple of real doozies to unpack with the Maquis, and of course, even the episode after with some serious character development for a beloved character of the franchise. All right, I did have IMDb set to Star Trek earlier, but I had to change it because I went to go look for something else in IMDb. And go figure now, it doesn't want to load.
Well, for the Maquis Part 2, the Federation colonists reject a new treaty with Cardassia and take matters into their own hands by planning to destroy a weapons depot of the Cardassians' Briama colony, I believe. And, you know, Cisco and the crew step in to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, really these two episodes kind of go together. You know, it landed on a cliffhanger with where we happen to be on our watch through, and I thought it was, I thought it was fun to actually have a week in between episodes like that. But John, you're the newcomer, first time watch through. What did you think of Maquis, if you want to, you know, include part 1 and 2?
I thought it was interesting, mostly in the sense that like how much of those things are still relevant to this day. Like a lot of the timing of this writing in 1994, that's more in the like Balkan state revolutions and stuff like that were going on. And so like a lot of like it's funny because I'm also watching Clone Wars for the first time, the cartoon at like the full series, and I'm watching like the Mandalore stuff and how the Death Watch was like constantly trying to remind Mandalore of its warrior past, and somebody at work pointed out how much the Mandalore of the Star Wars universe is like ancient Greece. And that like once they all unified and found peace, the Spartans kind of were like outcast, right? Because their culture was so violent. And I think that's the same thing we're seeing with the Maquis, is that they were the ones saving all of the Basharan race, or Bajarans, and instead, like, now they can't seem to quit, and they're also in power, which is kind of more like in terms of what happened when the Soviet Union fell, where like the oligarchs also became like the presidents and, you know, the senators and stuff like that. And that's what's going on with the Maquis. And it's like I think the way Cisco handled it was the absolute best. Was like, I know some of you are in here. I know that you like think that this is the right thing to do, but you're wrong. And instead of like us holding court or us judging each other for past actions or, you know, current plans, just stop. And then we're just going to pretend like it was dealt with. Like, we're going to acknowledge that you did what you did. It was the right thing to do then. It's not the right thing to do now. We can't talk about it because it was most likely a lot of war crimes. So everybody just be cool from here on out. And that to me is like exactly how it was supposed to be handled, was because like when like darkness happens, bad stuff happens, bad people do bad things, good people do bad things to make bad people pay. That's the world we live in. And in that instance, like, how do we get over it? What are our next steps afterwards? And to me, the next steps are acknowledge, like, what you can acknowledge, and then never do it again. And if it never comes up again, you truly are a changed person. If it keeps coming up afterwards, you aren't a changed person and you need more corrective action. And I think that was like such an awesome, like a Federation / Cisco moment. Like, that's what they really do is, even like when they have to free slave colony planets, they're still just like, but you guys need to be cool to each other. And we have to hope you will.
Yeah, for me, there's two pieces to this storyline that I feel like are really amazing, and they both deal with Cisco and how Cisco deals with the world. The first one, of course, is it's easy to be an angel in paradise, but this ain't paradise.
That line right there was just one of the just punches in the face of just how relevant DS9 still is. And we got some doozies coming up real quick too, but even just with this specific moment and just how true that line is and what it speaks to our culture right now. And I'm not going to call out any specific political lines, because I'm very apolitical in that I am not beholden my loyalties to anybody except myself and my wife, and I guess you guys on the panel all are right too. But I vote my conscience. I don't believe in party loyalty. I think that's part of our problem. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that Cisco says, it's easy to be a saint in paradise. It's easy to have your virtues and your values when you're sitting in your, 3-bedroom house with your Starbucks cappuccino, typing away garbage on Twitter, hiding behind the safety of your keyboard and preaching about what you stand for and how great of a person you are, when in reality, you're not doing anything except what anybody else is doing. And I think that's really what the line just stuck out to me, was like, no, you can't, it's easy to say you care when you don't have to.
Well, I think the line's even more than that. It's, to me, I love the other version that I've heard, and everybody wants to be a gangster till they got to do
some gangster shit. Yeah,
that's it.
And that is the exact opposite. It's easy to be an angel in paradise where God loves you and everybody's, copacetic. But it's really hard to be an angel on earth where you can be just like Lucifer.
It's easy to be an angel. It's easy to be an angel in church when you're surrounded by other people who think they agree with you.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I think that was really what he was saying. It's like everybody wants to be a gangster till they got to do gangster shit, and I think he did it. Like, and that's what I mean, is because like that's how gangs have to handle with it. Because like if you tell somebody your crimes, now they have something they can use against you.
Cisco does some gangster shit.
And so like for Cisco to literally just be like, guys, we cool? We're cool.
Capiche?
We cool.
No, it's like, we're gonna be cool. Period.
Yeah, exactly. We're cool.
Isn't Mark Allen just an absolute captivating powerhouse?
Oh, and the best part is after his speech to that council, Hudson walking in being like, that was a great speech. I suppose the only solution I would have, like the only rebuttal that would work at all to that speech is to just shoot you. Right?
Yeah. How many badasses are on the internet, on Reddit, Twitter, and everything? Well, we're just going to kill you. Like, yeah, bullshit. You can't even kill a fly.
Right. But I mean, like, that was the best response, right? And the truth of the matter is, what makes this conflict between the Cardassians, the Maquis, and the Federation really work is Cisco's relationship with Hudson. If it wasn't for that relationship, if they didn't personalize this struggle, it would not work. Like, I know it's never clearly laid out what happened to Hudson's wife, but my headcanon clearly says, no. That was a Cardassian thing that happened to her. Right? Like, some sort of sabotage or whatever wound up taking her out, and that's why he's on this crusade. All right, like that's my headcanon on it, but I'm sticking with it because that's the only way you get somebody that angry.
DS9's quality of writing gets to the point where it can get a few headcanon graces from time to time. It earns fansplanations. Absolutely.
Yeah,
it
H.
does
Marie
does
had
such
a
a
thing.
good job.
Oh, all I was going to say is that she was probably among the first colonists that were taken out during the Cardassian raids when they had all first settled. She probably came with him.
Yep.
And had settled there with him, and I think that she was probably one of the first victims of the feud, and that's why it sparked him for that. Is he's like, well, I lost my wife, I have nothing else to live for, so let's go.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, from here on out, I don't think. I mean, we're gonna watch and find out, but I actually don't think there is like a bad episode. Maybe bad concepts, maybe some sloppy plots with stuff in the future, but it's no more run-along homes, as far as I recall, and shouldn't be any more invasive procedures either.
It's got
So
some great development on those villains.
Dude,
Ducat over this entire series.
what are you talking about? Ducat is a great man of the people, and I think he really represents a good future for the Cardassian.
And
people.
besides
Mark
that,
Allen?
he's a minor Cardassian. I'm sure we're never gonna see him
Yeah,
again
what
in
was
this
it, like
series.
second order? Number 2? Yeah, what else is number 2? Poop.
You remember he played 2 roles? I think he played 2 roles in TNG.
Yep, he did.
Mark Gallo. No.
No, I think that's a pretty like high estimation for what is it, 7 seasons of 26 episodes for only to have 2 flops.
Yeah.
I'm ready to see if that holds up. That'd be really impressive. And then from then on, I will now be disappointed in every company because A, they've been paid more, and B, this exists. So because I'm here sitting here like trying to learn how to study world building and stuff like that for free because I can't afford college. I don't have the time or the money. So like I have to, makeshift it with YouTube to learn how to be like a good writer. And like I've learned all of these things about world building and like, coming on here and like actually being able to like talk about good writing from YouTube and stuff like that. So like the kids that went to school, like, and you're getting paid, like, come on. That's A, it's just lazy. Like B, like you're writing entertainment, like entertain.
Yeah.
Entertain yourself, and I bet you the 1 in a million people that are like you are gonna actually enjoy it too, and that's 400 million people. So that means there's
How the hell do you think this panel even became a thing? It's because we don't put on any fronts here at the Writer Brother. This is honest.
Well, not even just not
opinions.
fronts, but like we actually do share what we enjoy and why we enjoy it. Like we do front our good stuff, our favorites, and we're open to learning about new ones. Look at us talking about Silo. Look at us talking about Citadel. Look at us talking about Peripheral. Books Corey owns brought to our attention. Books the fans have brought to our attention. Like,
Shout out to Arende. Illusions I still think about.
we love entertainment, and we love absorbing it in whatever way we can get it. So legitimately, like the people that are paid to produce it, like step up your game. You're not Coca-Cola. You're not poisoning the masses. Like yeah, I know that they all say that like we have a 5-second attention span, and I bet you it's because that's the average look at an ad is 5 seconds. Like we don't look at ads for more than 5 seconds, or we read a 3-line meme.
That is like
In 5 seconds because we can read. We're adults. So like
that is some of the most that whole attention span thing is some of the most pseudoscience-y bullshit that has ever been conceived with market research. Because as you just said, John, no, people don't like to watch your dumb ads. We want to just watch our content. And not everybody has that short attention span. Not everybody. It's ridiculous where these generalizations come from.
Or we do have that short attention span when we're pooping, looking at our phone.
Yeah, guys,
Like-
H. Marie's trying to get a word in edgewise.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
But
it's more
anyway,
of a-
sorry.
Anyway, it's more of a I'm on both ends of the spectrum. I will either skip an ad, or I will space out and find myself watching, a 3-minute ad, going, what the hell am I watching here?
You know what my
And-
favorites are, though? My favorite is when you pull up a trailer and you get a trailer for another movie.
What's the longest YouTube ad you've seen? Electro Harmonix.
I think it was like a
guitar
15
pedals?
minute. There was like a
Yeah.
15-minute infomercial on like how to pick up chicks or something.
I think the longest one was Electro Harmonix, the Mel 9. That was like 12 minutes in. I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I don't know, man. For me, like, I have a huge attention span. In my line of work, you kind of have to. But I demand quality, right? Like, if you're going to show me an ad, if you're going to show me something, it better be worth my damn time. Because if it isn't,
be paid millions of dollars,
right?
Like that's my big beef. It's like there's all these people that say they're worth their money, and I don't want anybody to lose their jobs. So like my thing is just start doing them. Like study in your off time. Like listen in your off time. Watch the world. Start being people watchers and see what happens and how people talk. Because like clearly some people are getting it. Like Apple, I think is like 5 for 5. Every show we've reviewed of Apple so far has just nailed it. Ted Lasso.
Foundation sucks.
I love Foundation.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna ask for the floor here because I want to bring up something important, and I feel like this is gonna turn into a
Well,
rant.
since
Be
you
ready for this.
since you asked so nicely.
Yeah, here we go. Look, people say they have off time. Guys, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. No one has off time. Okay, there's no such thing as off time. There is time where you are not doing your work for somebody else. There is time you are not doing work around the house, but that is not off time, okay? There's even time where you're like processing information you've gotten, but that's not off time. Your brain is still doing stuff. It is not shut down. Do not allow your brain to shut down, because when you turn your brain off and completely space and are not processing anything, you're just existing like a lump, you are not growing. You are not evolving. You are not becoming everything both myself and Mr. Rogers knows you can be, okay? Look, you are not being the kind of human being you are supposed to be. Because, look, even the guys who were sitting around on the farms back in, like, the Middle Ages doing, nothing, quote-unquote, those are the guys that gave us the basics for physics and astronomy and mythology and countless other damn things in history.
Herbology, all this stuff,
Right.
like food and
All
botany.
because they were bored.
Right. So do not allow yourself to fall into the trap
You ever
of
been?
thinking that
Have you ever?
time...
Sorry.
Well, hold on. Do not allow yourself to fall into the trap of thinking for 1 second that you are entitled to waste time against yourself, okay? That time where you actually are not responsible for other people's stuff is the time you're supposed to be working to improve yourself, to make yourself better, however that looks. I don't care whether it's you sit down and work on a new makeup technique that you think is great. I don't care if it's you design, you take the My Little Pony thing and turn it into, I don't know, My Little Sandworm or something like that. Like, I don't care what you do with that time, but use it, because you have a very limited window. You have maybe 75 to 80 years to do something of value to pass on to the next generation. You are a link in the chain from the wisdom that came before you to the wisdom you are going to add to the wisdom you are going to pass on, whether that's to your kids or another human being. You have that much of a window, and if you don't use it, you are failing everyone that came before you and everyone that will come after. There we go. Now,
Yeah, see, shit like this is why we're not taking Deep Space Nine out of the lineup, because
But
when
also
we end up agreeing on an episode synopsis and just inspiring, philosophical discussions, I kind of think it increases our quality just a little bit.
Yeah, and like definitely if you need to rest, and by rest, like
Yes,
It's
life is
like-
hard and is just a constant kick
I'm
in the
not
balls.
saying don't rest. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is
Right.
use that time, though.
right. And so the way I use my rest time is I've been super vibing this Tears of the Kingdom Zelda release. Corian and I were discussing it in the pre-show. Super fun. So like that's rest too, but that's also like fun, and that's education too, because like this is what we're trying to show with our show. We're discussing our favorite entertainment. Like we're discussing our favorite things. So like that's our version of rest, and also like our addition to the knowledge of everyone is like there is a definition of quality good. It's diverse per genre, and we critique all of them accordingly. It's also diverse per like universe, like whether it's Marvel, Star Wars, Star Trek, like they all have their own rules.
Yep.
And that's crazy cool. And like, yeah, it's nerdy, but that's fun. Because like, what else are we gonna do as we get older? Like, do we all just want to be wrestling like UFC fans, or do we all want to actually enjoy our own versions of entertainment our own way, and then also share them and discuss them? And that's like what we're trying to do here. And yeah, Parker, you're right. That's why we're doing Deep Space Nine. It's not exactly the historical powerhouse, but like everybody
I'm
who
gonna have
loves
to
it
disagree with
was
that.
not wrong. Well, no, because like it did flop according to the studios
well,
when
yeah.
it was released. So like literally, it's supposedly
It's
an
so
accidental cult classic, but then you watch it and it's like, no, it was just a great show. It's probably just in a bad lineup.
yes, that's exactly what it's so DS9's problem is that it was sandwiched between two Star Trek shows. It started in TNG season 5, which was when, as you know, when the Next Generation was really good.
TNG was huge.
Holy
Patrick Stewart
crap.
was the sexiest man alive.
This was very much like the original like SVU. Like Law and Order was killing it, then SVU came in and was like the absolute banger to people that like Law and Order for all of its like certain details. And so then SVU started winning, but then the one that came on after SVU was like dead in the water. And I feel like that's kind of where DS9 fell in, was like just shot by two shows in a row of the same content, or even just like time. Like a lot of people only have an hour before they have to put the kids down, and then like it's bedtime, so they're probably gonna watch something more, I don't know, easy, because Star Trek is always deep. Like that's why I liked it. Like I like watching it, but also like for a time, at a time.
H. Marie had a comment while I was going off the rails there, so.
Oh, I was gonna say, PD, if you don't mind muting. Thank you. As much as I like to hear myself echo. No, I was gonna say, again, I've been learning my ADHD things the last couple of months, and I've realized it's nice when my brain shuts down for about 10 seconds every day, where I just kind of space out and I go, I don't have to think about a thing. I just wish it would do it when I'm trying to go to sleep instead of when I'm in the middle of doing something. I just, bad term for it, but I basically stroke out. I stop. I don't know what I'm doing. I just basically shut up. I stare off into space and for about a good 10 to 15 seconds, and then I gather myself and I go about my day. That's all. It's just
Fair.
a nice break for the day.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to The Wire. This is probably one of the top best episodes of DS9. Yes, easily a contender for one of the best episodes in all of Star Trek. I definitely put this high up there with Duet, personally. But I will read the storyline. Garrick and Bashir are waiting in line in the mess hall when suddenly Garrick falls ill. An examination reveals an implant in his brain. The device, which was implanted a year earlier, is to prevent the bearer from giving away secrets whilst being interrogated. But now, Garrick's time is quickly running out, and Bashir looks for a way to save his friend's life. In the meantime, Garrick tells him contradicting stories about his past. Shout out again to Arnud Teal for that pretty good synopsis of The Wire, but it does not quite capture the episode.
Wait a minute.
Correction,
Stories?
doesn't spoil.
Yeah, wait a
Doesn't
minute.
spoil. That was like, as far as non-spoilers, that was on the money.
Yeah, oh, wait a minute. Different stories? No, they're all true. Garrick even says it.
Yeah.
I think his position in the stories were wrong. I thought this episode was so slow. I did not enjoy this.
I was saying before, Andrew Robinson. Anytime Andrew Robinson is on the screen, I'm just like
Done.
Like Mark Alamo, when he's that cowboy in the 1800s in Time's Arrow, that Data hustles at the poker table, like Mark Alamo on the screen, glorious. Andrew Robinson, it's like I'm there. It's like when Jeffrey Combs walks on the screen, it's like, hello.
Well, and I think that sadly, John, this is an episode you're going to want to come back to after we finish our rewatch, because this is Garrick's character development episode that you actually would probably appreciate later. Go ahead.
I got that. I picked up on that. I do listen to those details. I just mean in terms of like pacing, it was just such a sharp contrast for me. Like,
from Maki, of course.
Yeah. So like for me, I was just like, we're really hitting the brakes, and I may or may not have fell off the cart like while watching it just because it was so much slower. But
I do a lot with Garrick.
I do like Garrick. I like, my big issue with it is like, I know how like you guys hype it up, so whenever like we get any of these episodes, I'm always like, okay, I know I have to listen, but I don't kind of want to.
Fair enough. I guess this is the thing. Before this, Garrick had always been planned to be a background character, like never really getting any sort of like detail. When they realized that they had something with Garrick, this is when they brought him to the forefront and actually allowed his character to be created and developed and come alive. So they needed to do a lot of exposition in this episode. But because of the way, because he's effectively bisexual space lizard on this series, they had to give him a little bit of a, and a spy, they have to give him a little bit of a, you're never really sure what his true backstory is. So that's part of it. Also, I'm going to say, we got some fun character building from Quark as well. Right? Like, we had a great Quark moment in this episode where, he's sitting down, he's talking to one of his old contacts, being like, oh, can you get me this piece of biotech? And then all of a sudden everything goes wrong, and Quark's first reaction was, it's great talking to you, bye! Right?
Yeah, we found out that it was the Cardassian intelligence agency that part was involved with. It was pretty much, I'm dead. Yeah, no,
he found a very small corner of the station to go crawl into and was hiding in that box for like a week after that phone call.
Oh yeah, no, dude, he has a doomsday room for sure. But like, my big thing, like, with the like, I love how you say that like he seemed like Garrick seemed like a wash character, like a very ancillary character to the story. But like throughout the whole season, you guys are horrible at like not like spoiling hype. So like you're like, oh, Garrick, he's not important, and I'm like, okay, obviously, but like, so I've watched him, and so like as I've listened to his character, like he is literally like the space James Bond antagonist with no James Bond. Yep. And I've been like watching that this whole time. So like to me, he's always had character. And so like watching, like when you find out that he did everything, you're like, okay, I really hope he isn't so boring that he compartmentalized so bad that he created like BPD or multiple personality disorder, and instead like he owns it all, because like that's the kind of like character you want from these like evolved over logical species, You know
what I would say? Do you remember when we watched the Old Man series? he's the Cardassian version of the old man. Like, to me, right? Like, he's like, yeah, he was a spy, but he's just had enough of this nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Like, that to me is his kind of character in a lot of ways. He was just the old man at like 35, which, you know, I 100% feel and respect him on.
I get that he's like a young Liam Neeson, like from Taken.
Yeah.
Like, but like, I feel like he's always had that level of like character. So like, I've like, oh, that was the other point I want to make. Like, one, like, it feels like he's always had that. So when you say that, like, this is when they just now decided to do something with him, like, A, kind of feel like they always have, and B, like, he is like the quality of writing for their ancillary characters.
Yeah.
They always could have done something with him.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you in on a little secret because I've got back channel information on it. There were actually 6 characters in the first 2 seasons that were introduced as kind of ancillary characters that they weren't sure they were going to go forward with. This is one of them, right? I'll leave it to you guys to decide which ones were not. I will say that Arjun was seriously considered as one of the characters that was going to hang around for a long period of time. The Trill Initiate. And they put the kibosh on that one pretty quick because the ratings for that character were just not there.
Yeah. No, I really like this episode because even watching it again, like, there's definitely episodes on future rewatches I'll probably skip. This is not gonna be one of them. This is one of the best because of the entire performance, and then yes, that last line, it's like, oh, you know, they're all true. Oh, what about the lies? Especially the lies. It's like, yeah, this is it's gonna be a ride. Yeah.
Oh, and we also meet Garrick's old boss, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, and it was. It's like, was there actually a friend, but he wasn't called Elim? And that whole, you know, using his first name to either make somebody up or give it to somebody else that he knew. And he says all the stories were true. And so they might have been, they must have been, they could have been. In a lot of ways, it's possible that pieces of them probably all fit differently, and he just changed details around to keep the obscurity intact.
I mean, my theory on it is every one of those stories is true because they're stories he wrung out of somebody else.
That too, right? Yeah, he's just repeating interrogation stories and changing small details. That way, they're still authentic because they did happen. They just, you know, might have skewed a couple of things or whatever. No big deal. But yeah, this is what good character development looks like. This is one of the best episodes, like I said, of the series that just further cements why you should be watching, not only watching DS9, but, you know, maybe take some notes for your own projects that you may or may not be working on that don't necessarily have to be Star Trek. They could be any one of your own legacy projects that you're trying to work on, or just something that is original and new and just something that's unique and not just trying to piggyback off of other successes of previous stuff. I know that sounds oddly specific all of a sudden, but I'm just saying in general, as a writer myself, you know, my story didn't come out as original as I thought it was going to. I certainly borrowed some tropes and had my fair share of fan service references added in for fun, because in the moment you see an opportunity to put a Star Trek reference in your sci-fi book. Any of you is free to tell me right now with a straight face you're not going to do it. Yeah, that's what I thought. Of course you are. But you know what? I still created my own universe. Even if it is a lot like other people's universes, that's still uniquely mine. And there it is. H. Marie has my universe in her hands.
Well, so
hey man, even Stargate, like, they make a joke when they first get a spaceship, and you know, O'Neill says, "So what did they think of my choice for a name of the ship?" And Carter goes, "Yeah, we can't name the ship Enterprise."
Yeah.
Right? Like, that was perfect, right? Like,
I know. Yeah. So there is, look at the two shows we just reviewed before we got to this great show here. You know, Silo, Citadel, those started as books. They're original stories. They're quality. They might be similar to stories you've already heard, but I think that's really the only way forward for most stuff at this point. Like, you can't... The reason Mandalorian was so good was because a lot of EU fans, like myself, finally got to share in the experience with other fans what it was like to actually experience Star Wars outside of the trilogy. And to actually understand, get that feel of a big galaxy far, far away. It's because it was, yes, it took place in Star Wars, but it started with a new character that was totally original. And then by the end of the first episode, it's, you know, kind of derailed, and because now we just, now we have green fan service puppet, and from there, we don't need to get into Mandalorian right now. My point is, though, is part of the hook for Mandalorian was the nuance. Was taking an originally established IP and doing something totally new. Something that we hadn't really totally seen before. Or we had seen in Westerns, but I haven't seen those stories before because, I'm sorry, I just don't watch a whole lot of old Westerns. I've watched a few. We've watched one on this show.
But also following the rules of the universe. Like, that is... Like, the worst part is, like, it's following the rules of, like, the external parts of the universe, like make characters worth being sold a bunch, like Baby Doll. Like, okay, that's a fine rule to follow, but, like, also make all of the other parts important, you know? Like, you know, like Silo's making a full world out of a 10,000 person silo. And we're already, like, deep into the world building. And then Citadel is, like, making a spy movie into, like, 4 separate spy movies with 4 separate starts at the same time. And that's, like, awesome. Like, you have all of the historical, like, precedent. Like, you should step it up, you know?
Oh, thank you. The Expanse is really good because it sticks to the source material. Because it follows the original book, it stays within the rules of that universe. And that's a lot of reasons why DS9 was good, was because they established their rules very early on that were within already established confines of the TNG era. And that's, they stuck with them, but they went and just did their own thing. They explored strange new worlds by sitting in one place.
The strange old space station.
Right, yeah, strange old space station, but strange new lives coming through every day, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody's living their own little world. Bring the strange new worlds to your you know, to where you're operating business. Go ahead.
Who else wants Apple and Amazon to do a group show of some sort?
Well, as long as it's not Rings of Power Season 3.
I mean, I wish it was your book, but we also have to introduce that to people. But still, Apple and Amazon, those two powers combined would create some impressive shows.
I mean,
yeah, if we
could
had
probably
the writing of Apple and the budget of Amazon, that would be pretty dope.
Oh, jeez, if Galaxia could get that treatment, oh boy.
Ted Lasso is the main character.
Have you read the book, John?
I just want Ted Lasso in it.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to try and cast Brendan Fraser as one of the lead roles, but then he won an Oscar, and now I'm like, wow. So the potential Galaxia budget, we get Brendan Fraser, and we are a couple $1 million in debt. So yeah, I don't know. We'll get there when we get there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see how it all comes together at the end, right?
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
We're watching these projects come together over time.
Well, I'm gonna finish that audiobook here very soon, and once I do, it's gonna, it'll be finally time to move on to the sequel fully, because I'm even at the point where I come across a couple of spelling errors once in a while, or just even some grammar out of place, and I'm like, you know what? These are the scars that just mark the first book, and that's at some point with projects, you just gotta go.
That's the first
Go
edition.
forward.
Now you have reason to do a second edition.
Those are the real valuable ones. You gotta get the ones with the
Get your
mistakes,
misprints of Galaxia while you can.
though. That's right. Lovely.
Yeah. So, winding down here, we got the last 7 minutes of the show, give or take. But yeah, this
Dude, some super cool advice for all my job hunters out there. Put your resume into ChatGPT and ask it to make it better for the job you want.
That's
You
interesting.
can even load in your the job description, and so it can take all of your tasks and make them sound more towards that job description for you. Phenomenal tool I just learned today.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
10 out of 10 recommend, because you got to fight algorithms. Why not get an algorithm to fight on your side?
There you go.
absolutely
That's
some
some great
good advice. Yeah, no, we try to bring good advice here on the Writer Brothers, because
We need it too.
we need good advice, and we just need to break some of the status quo nonsense of whatever the hell this is supposed to be anymore. I mean, does anybody even know what is going on in the world these days? Just like, I stopped caring, and yet it's like it's trying to get me to care, and I'm like, why?
Well, I mean, look, the long and short of it is, I mean, just like every year we've been on this planet, some people are trying to convince you that the world is on fire, and there's other things that are going on that are kind of cool and good, right? I mean, that's the way I kind of look at it. I mean, part of me, like, the Ukraine thing going on, look, that's ate up a fair bit of my time and resources, because, I've got friends who live in Ukraine, right? That I actually haven't heard from since this whole thing began. So, I'm a little concerned about them, but at the same time, I'm watching what's going on, and I'm watching Russia be completely humbled by Ukraine. And you can't help but laugh, right? At the same time, there's been some neat stuff going on, right? I mean, we got to see the pomp and pageantry that was, Charles' coronation, which was kind of cool, and I enjoyed watching it, right? Because
I watched a video about the artifacts, the coronation art. It's so
cool,
They're
right?
hundreds of years old.
Look, whether you like Charles or not is immaterial to the fact that there is some cool historical stuff that goes on, and look, we all could use an excuse to party and have a good time.
I'm all for, I like the idea that they sell all the people. I really do. The whole cultural preservation, and it's just tradition, and it's all just a figurehead. I'm fine with that. If it was all just cultural and tradition and just a figurehead. When we get to that point, fine. I might actually like it a little bit more, but it's not.
Well, I think the thing that I think Corion and Scogli are pointing out is it's not the reason why they're doing it, it's what they did with the reason.
Yeah.
They made it, it's like some people made art because they were paid a bunch of money, and that's the only reason they ever got into art. Other people got into art their whole lives and never made $1.
Died in obscurity. And then there's the best stuff, yeah.
And so I think that in this instance, these people were told to make a pageant for a reason that, was abusive originally, but then grew less for the most part. And despite that, they made something glorious, something fun, something beautiful, and that's something to be commended for.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you just consider this, right? You know, even though, you know, I'm hundreds and hundreds of years old and what have you, but, you know, this is the first time that we've ever actually seen a coronation in the digital age. That's something at least cool to be able to look at and go, hey, you know, it's kind of neat that we got the coverage that we did. It's, you know, a lot of what went on in that whole ritual was actually kind of cool to hear, and very, you know, like, they weren't putting some sovereign in place that was going to rule the world. There was a lot of humbling statements that were made in there. And that's, you know, that to me was kind of cool to hear, that, like, they get, like, no, my job is to serve. And that's, you know, that's a good thing to see. Look, I thought it was neat. I thought it was a fun distraction. You know, I mean, and it is. It's a distraction, but it's a fun one, right?
There's the story about those Scottish kids that got drunk and they broke into the chapel and they stole the coronation stone from underneath the chair, and they dropped it while they were like running away or whatever. They broke it.
Yeah, like, that's kind of cool.
Like, this is a great story. This rock's been like every king or queen for the last like 600-700 years has sat on this stone.
Over 1,000 actually.
Yeah, it's crazy. These kids steal this rock and break it in half. Wow.
Right, like, there's interesting things to see, right? I mean, look, and I get, you know, that for Americans it does kind of feel like, you know, you're watching, you know, the you know, mom side of the family that you don't really get along well with necessarily when it comes to the royalty. I get that.
You haven't had to care since July 4th, 1776.
Yeah, like, but at the very least, I would hope you guys have gotten to a relationship point now where you can be happy for them at least. Right?
I respect y'all's elation and excitement. I was just, I was excited to not watch, and that's like, I don't mean any. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's respect.
I didn't watch it. I watched the video about the artifacts.
I'm not gonna go on Twitter and say, "Oh, Corey, I didn't watch the coronation with a dweeb." No, that's well, I mean, that makes me just as I'm Peter York of the Ryder Brothers. Like, we'll see you next week. This has been a presentation of the Ryder Brothers Tuesday Night Live Show. The Ryder Brothers, restoring respect into discourse.